Hello students, I am Dr. Shravani Chakravarti, teaching English in Government Bilasa Girls PG College. Today I am going to discuss the second part of my online lecture on Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. This novel was written in the year 1860 and 61. I have already covered the first part, that is the introduction and characterization of the novel, in the first lecture of my video. Now, I am going to interpret Great Expectation on the action or the plot of the novel. Plot is a literary term used to describe the events that make up a story. These events relate to each other in a sequence. Dickens used complex plot in Great Expectation, and plot or the story is of utmost importance in this novel. Pip, a young orphan, living with his sister and her husband, is the Marshes of the Kent. I'm going to narrate this summary or plot summary of this novel. So he is a young orphan. He is living there in the Marshes of Kent with his sister and her husband. He sits in a cemetery one evening looking at his parents' tombstone. The gripping story that starts or begins, it emerges suddenly from this point that suddenly an escaped convict springs up from behind a tombstone, grabs Pip and orders him to bring him food and a file for his leg irons. Pip obeys, but the fearsome convict is soon captured anyway. The convict protects Pip by claiming to have stolen the items himself. One day, Pip is taken by his uncle Pumblechook to play at Satis house, the home of the wealthy dowager Miss Havisham, who is extremely eccentric. She wears an old wedding dress everywhere she goes and keeps all the clocks in her house stopped at the same time. During his visit, Pip meets a beautiful young girl named Estella, who treats him coldly and contemptuously. Nevertheless, he falls in love with her and dreams of becoming a wealthy gentleman so that he might be worthy of her. He even hopes that Miss Havisham intends to make him a gentleman and marry him to Estella. But his hopes are shattered when, after months of regular visits to Satis house, Miss Havisham decides to help him become a common laborer in her family's business. With Miss Havisham's guidance, Pip is apprenticed to his brother-in-law Joe, who is the village blacksmith. Pip works in the forge unhappily, struggling to better his education with the help of the plain and kind Biddy, and encountering Joe's malicious day laborer Orlick. One night, after a quarrel with Orlick, Pip's sister, known as Mrs. Joe, is viciously attacked and she becomes a mute invalid. From her signals, Pip suspects that Orlick was responsible for the attack. One day, a lawyer named Jaggers appears with strange news. A secret benefactor has given Pip a large fortune, and Pip must come to London immediately to begin his education as a gentleman. Pip happily assumes that his previous hopes have come true, that Miss Havisham is his secret benefactor, and that the old woman intends for him to marry Estella. In London, Pip befriends a young gentleman named Herbert Pocket and Jaggers' law clerk Wemmick. He expresses disdain for his former friends and loved ones, especially Joe, but he continues to pine for Estella. He continues his education by studying with the tutor Matthew Pocket, Herbert's father. Herbert himself helps Pip learn how to act like a gentleman. When Pip turns 21 and begins to receive an income from his fortune. He thinks that he will secretly help Herbert buy his way into the business he has chosen for himself. But for now, Herbert and Pip lead a fairly indisciplined life in London, enjoying themselves and running up debts. Orlick reappears in Pip's life, employed as Miss Havisham's porter, but is promptly fired by Jaggers after Pip reveals Orlick's unpleasant past. Mrs. Joe dies, and Pip goes home for the funeral, feeling tremendous grief and remorse. Several years go by until one night a familiar figure barges into Pip's room, the convict, Magwitch, who stuns Pip by announcing that he and not Miss Havisham is the source of Pip's fortune. He tells Pip that he was so moved by Pip's boyhood kindness that he dedicated his life to make Pip a gentleman, and he made a fortune in Australia for that very purpose. Pip is aghast, but he feels morally bound to help Magwitch escape London, as the convict is pursued both by the police and by Compeyson, his former partner in crime. A complicated mystery begins to fall into place when Pip discovers that Compeyson was the man who abandoned Miss Havisham at the altar and that Estella is Magwitch's daughter. Miss Havisham has raised her to break men's hearts as revenge for the pain her own broken heart caused her. Miss Havisham delighted in Estella's ability to play with the with his affections. As the weeks pass, Pip sees the good in Magwitch and begins to care for him deeply. Before Magwitch's escape attempt, Estella marries an upper-class lout named Bentley Dremule. Pip makes a visit to Satter's house, where Miss Havisham begs his forgiveness for the way she has treated him in the past, and he forgives her. Later that day, when she bends over the fireplace, her clothing catches fire and she goes up in flames. She survives but becomes an invalid. In her final days, she continues to repent for her misdeeds and to plead for Pip's forgiveness. The time comes for Pip and his friends to abduct Magwitch away from London. Just before the escape attempt, Pip is called to a shadowy meeting in the marshes, where he encounters the vengeful, evil Orlick, who is on the verge of killing Pip when Herbert arrives with a group of friends and saves Pip's life. Pip and Herbert hurry back to effect Magwitch's escape. They try to sneak Magwitch down the river on a rowboat, but they are discovered by the police, whom Compeyson has tipped off. Magwitch and Compeyson fight in the river and Compeyson is drowned. Magwitch is sentenced to death and Pip loses his fortune. Magwitch feels that his sentence is God's forgiveness and he dies at peace. Pip falls ill. Joe comes to London to care for him and they are reconciled. Joe gives him the news from home. Orlick, after robbing Pumblechook, is now in jail. Miss Havisham had died and left most of her fortune to the Pockets. Biddy has taught Joe how to read and write. After Joe leaves, Pip decides to rush to home after him and marry Biddy. But when he arrives there, he discovers that she and Joe have already married. Pip decides to go abroad with Herbert to work in the mercantile trade. Returning many years later, he encounters Estella in the ruined garden at Satter's house. Dremule, her husband, treated her badly, but he is now dead. Pip finds that Estella's coldness and cruelty have been replaced by a sad kindness, and the final paragraph in the novel reads as, I quote, I took her hand in mine and we went out the ruined place, and is as the morning mists have risen long ago when I first left the forge, so the evening mists were rising now in all the broad expanse of tranquil light they showed me. I saw no shadow another parting from her. Unquote. So they are reconciled and reunited after 11 years. So with this, we complete the short or plot summary of the novel. Now, let us come to the thematic study of Great Expectation. I have tried to classify it into under 4 aspects, and I have tried to explain it with the help of a chart, and I am going to discuss it one by one. So first you see the chart which has been given, and it will help you to understand that what are the 4 aspects of under which I have covered this thematic study of the novel. Themes are the fundamental and often universal ideas explored in a literary work. So, the first aspect which I have taken here is ambition and self-improvement. It is Dickens who has actually taken up the theme of this novel according to these aspects. The moral theme of Great Expectations is quite simple. Affection, loyalty, and conscience are more important than social advancement, wealth, and class. Dickens establishes the theme and shows Pip learning this lesson largely by exploring ideas of ambition and self-improvement. Ideas that quickly become both the thematic center of the novel and the psychological mechanism that encourages much of Pip's development. At heart, Pip is an idealist. Whenever he can conceive of something that is better than what he already has, he immediately desires to obtain the improvement. When he sees Satis House, he longs to be a wealthy gentleman. When he thinks of his moral shortcomings, he longs to be good. And when he realizes that he cannot read, he longs to learn. Pip's desire for self-improvement is the main source of the novel's title because he believes in the possibility of advancement in life. He has great expectations, in quote, about his future. Ambition and self-improvement take 3 forms in Great Expectations: moral, social, and educational. These motivate Pip's best and his worst behavior throughout the novel. First, Pip desires moral self-improvement. He is extremely hard on himself when he acts immorally and feels powerful guilt that spurs him to act better in the future. When he leaves for London, for instance, he torments himself about having behaved so wretchedly towards Jo and Biddy. Second, Pip desires social self-improvement. In love with Estella, he longs to become a member of her social class. And, encouraged by Mrs. Jo and Pumblechook, he entertains fantasies of becoming a gentleman. The working out of this fantasy forms the basic plot of the novel. It provides Dickens the opportunity to gently satirize the class system of his era and to make a point about its capricious nature. Significantly, Pip's life as a gentleman is no more satisfying and certainly no more moral than his previous life as a blacksmith's apprentice. Third, Pip desires educational improvement. This desire is deeply connected to his social ambition and longing to marry Estella. A full education is a requirement of being a gentleman. As long as he is ignorant country boy, he has no hope of social advancement. Pip understands this fact as a child when he learns to read at Mr. Vople's aunt's school and as a young boy when he takes lessons from Matthew Pocket as a young man. Ultimately, through the examples of Joe, Biddy, and Magwitch, Pip learns that social and educational improvement are irrelevant to one's real worth and that the conscience and affection are to be valued above erudition and social standing. Then the next aspect we will come to, that is the social class. Throughout Great Expectations, Dickens explores the class system of Victorian England, ranging from the most wretched criminals like Magwitch to the poor peasants of the marsh country, Joe and Biddy, or to the middle class Pumblechook to the very rich Miss Havisham. The theme of social class is central to the novel's plot and to the ultimate moral theme of the book. Pip's realization that wealth and class are less important than affection, loyalty, and inner worth. Pip achieves this realization when he is finally able to understand that, despite the esteem in which he holds Estella, one's social status is no way connected to one's real character. Drimule, for instance, is an upper-class lout, while Magwitch, a persecuted convict, has a deep inner worth. Perhaps the most important thing to remember about the novel's treatment of social class is that the class system it portrays is based on the post-industrial revolution model of Victorian England. Dickens generally ignores the nobility and the hereditary aristocracy in favor of characters whose fortunes have been earned through commerce. Even Miss Havisham's family fortune was made through the brewery that is still connected to her large country house. Brewery is the beer house where beer is manufactured. In this way, by connecting the theme of social class to the idea of work and self-development, Dickens subtly reinforces the novel's overarching theme of ambition and self-improvement. The next aspect is crime, guilt, and innocence. The theme of crime, guilt, and innocence is explored throughout the novel, largely through the characters of the convicts and the criminal lawyer Jaggers. From the handcuffs Joe mends at the smithy to the gallows at the prison in London, the imagery of crime and criminal justice pervades the book, becoming an important symbol of Pip's inner struggle to reconcile his own inner moral conscience with the institutional justice system. In general, the external trappings of the criminal justice system, like police, courts, jails, becomes a superficial standard of morality that Pip must learn to look beyond to trust his inner conscience. Magwitch, for instance, frightens Pip at first simply because he is a convict, and Pip feels guilty for helping him because he is afraid of the police. By the end of the book, however, Pip has discovered Magwitch's inner nobility and is able to disregard his external status as a criminal. Prompted by his conscience, he helps Magwitch to evade the law and the police. As Pip has learned to trust his conscience and to value Magwitch's inner character, he has replaced an external standard of value with an internal one. Now comes the next aspect, that is sophistication. In Great Expectations, Pip becomes obsessed with a desire to be sophisticated and takes damaging risks in order to do so. After his first encounter with Estella, Pip becomes acutely self-conscious. I quote, "I was a common laboring boy, that my hands were coarse, that my boots were thick," unquote. Once he moves to London, Pip is exposed to the glamorous urban world, in quote, "so crowded with people and so brilliantly lighted," unquote, and he quickly begins to, quote, "contract expensive habits," unquote. As a result of spending money on things like a personal servant and fancy clothes, Pip quickly falls into debt and damages Herbert's finances as well as his own. Even more troubling, Pip tries to avoid anyone who might undermine his reputation as a sophisticated young gentleman. In the end, sophistication is revealed as a shallow and superficial value because it does not lead Pip to achieving anything and only makes him lonely and miserable. So these are the aspects on which the theme of the novel is based. Now, concluding the thematic aspect of the novel, I would like to say that Dickens appealed to various classes of society, from aristocrats to laborers, intellectuals and simple folks, and to different levels of emotion. In this range and universality, he has been compared to Shakespeare. He is, quote, "one of the great pivotal authors of England, embedded deep in the national mind," unquote, and expresses the, quote, "being of the people of England," unquote, especially among the middle and lower classes, in a way that they understand him. Even those who have not read his works, words such as Pickwick, Micawber, asking for more like Oliver Twist, and each and every character in Great Expectation is based on the real life observations. His grotesque tragi-comic style in the novel conjure up a familiar idea. The word, in quote, "Dickensian," passed into the language as expressing a scene or way of life derived from his novels, unquote. Thank you.